Becoming successful is a lot easier when you have your shit together. And so what we're going to be doing in this video is I'm going to explain to you how I actually got my shit together when I was younger and how that led to me becoming a millionaire, living my dream life and making a ton of money. Now the chances are right now, if you're not where you want to be in life, you don't have your shit together. You've probably got bad habits, you've probably got bad belief systems, you might not be in a healthy place, you might not have any good relationships, you might be completely broke. So what we're going to do in this video is address this problem and I'm going to help you solve it. And I'm going to help you solve it as someone who has solved it themselves. So I've definitely got my shit together, right? I've got my dream life, I've got my dream relationships in my life, I've got more money than I know what to do with, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm in a good spot. And so I'm going to explain what I did 7 years ago to create this life so you can have the same thing. So without further ado, let's hop into it. So really, happiness and being happy with your life comes down to a couple of different variables. You've got health, you've got wealth, and then you've got love. And typically, generally speaking, if you study the human condition, if you're healthy, wealthy, and you have love in your life, i.e. with personal or intimate friendships or relationships, you're probably going to be happy. Now, if you just have wealth and love, but you're really unhealthy, then you're probably not going to be happy. And if you have loads of, if you're really healthy and you have lots of love, but you're dead broke and you can't afford anything and you're in a terrible financial spot, you're probably not going to be happy. And likewise, if you have love, and health, so if you have health and wealth, if you're really healthy and you're really wealthy, but no one loves you and you don't love anyone, and you have no friends and nothing like that, then you're probably not going to be happy. Now, a lot of people would argue that all you need to be happy is love. Well, why don't you go and look at the statistics for what ends most marriages? It's finances. It's people not having enough money to make the marriage work, and most marriages end over wealth. And so what I've experienced throughout my short 25, 26 years on this planet is that if you have these three things in tow, you're probably going to be happy. And having these three things in tow constitutes having your shit together. And so what we're going to be doing here over the next hour or two is I'm going to explain my philosophy for acquiring these three things. Now, I don't have a huge amount of life experience. I'm only 25 years old, but in my short 25 years on this planet, I've been able to make more than $20 million online. I've been able to sustain healthy relationships. I've got tons of great friendships. I've got a fantastic team of people that work with me and for me. I've got a great relationship with my parents. I live in my dream house. I have my dream car. So I have these things and I'm happy. And if you're not, then I'm going to explain how. So let's dive into this. So the first thing that I'm going to explain is what you don't need to do, because there's a lot of misconceptions around how to get your shit together and how to have a good life. And a lot of them, in my opinion, are wrong. And so I'm going to break some belief systems, hopefully. So you do not need monk mode. Don't need it. You don't need meditation. You don't need it. You don't need journaling. You don't need it. You don't need to read. What other habits are there? You don't even need to go to the gym, right? All of these things, I've got some notes on my phone here, but all of these things like self-improvement, you don't need it. Now, are these things bad? No, absolutely not. And these can be great habits that can massively benefit you and help you in life. But getting your shit together when you're near rock bottom or you're not in a good place in your life is far less about adding things and adding good habits. It's not about adding things when you need to get your shit together. It's about removing things. When you need to get your shit together, it's way more your leverage and your ability to get your shit together is way more about removing habits and bad things from your life than it is adding things. Because these habits here are fantastic to acquire, but you need to achieve what I'm going to call a solid base. Okay? Now, a base, this represents your character. And what I mean by this is, this is you right now, if this is your shit together-ometer, this is your shit together-ometer, here is 0, where you don't have your shit together, but you don't not have your shit together. You're just sort of here is neutral point base. right? You're not in a bad place, but you're not really in a good place. You're not happy, you're not unhappy, you're just existing without any great habits or really bad habits. Down here is where we have hell. And up here is where we have heaven. Excuse the biblical analogies, but I'm sure you can get the point. And so down here is probably where you are right now. You're probably in the depths of hell, where you're broke or you're unhealthy or you don't have any relationships. And that's probably because you're young and you're yet to figure out a lot of things to do with life. But the thing is all of the habits that I listed on the board earlier, well, they bring you up here to heaven. But there's not much point in trying to seek heaven in your life when you're trudging through hell. If you want to get to heaven, the first thing you have to do is get out of hell. And you don't get to heaven by getting out of hell. You start by getting out of hell first, to your base, where you're just at the surface of the earth. So if this is the surface, and this is hell, and this is heaven, this is bad and this is good, we don't escape hell by looking for heaven. We escape hell just by trying to get to the bloody surface. And then once we're at the surface here, then we can start looking for the good thing. And so if your life sucks right now, and if you're down here somewhere, if you've got mental health problems or health problems or money issues or relationship issues or whatever, you're not going to fix those, and you're not going to improve your life by randomly starting to meditate. The leverage is in removal, not addition. If you want to add, you must first subtract. And so I want you to imagine that, let's just say that there's you have 10 different things in your life that you do, whether they're good or bad things. There might only be 10 things that you can do. This is an arbitrary number, it's a mental model, right? It's not exactly true, but my point is that before you try adding something good, you need to remove something bad, because there's only so much time, energy, and willpower you have. And there's way more leverage and there's way more power in removing things down here than there are in adding things up here. Because your job right now is not to try and live a good life and have a happy, amazing life. It's just not to have a bad one. And so what we want to do is we want to borrow a mental model or an abstraction called inversion or obliquity, where we try to achieve something through its opposite. So how do we become successful? Well, we just try to not be unsuccessful. And so what we're going to do in this video is I'm going to walk you through what you need to remove. I'm not going to tell you to add anything. I'm not going to tell you to enter a monk mode protocol or start drinking more water or journaling or meditating, because none of those things are going to help you if you have fundamental, terrible, bad habits going on down here. For example, let's say that you smoke weed and you drink alcohol and you're addicted to video games, you can't stop watching pornography, you're constantly scrolling through social media and Instagram, and your life is just, you work a job you hate and everything's bad. You doing meditation for 5 minutes a day is not going to change your life anywhere near enough in contrast to the removal of those habits. Or if you have a terrible life but then you start journaling, all you're going to do is you're just going to start depressing yourself even more, because you're reflecting on how shit your life is. So the good habits are good to adopt, but only when you have a solid, healthy base. And the way you get a solid, healthy base is by the removal. So what we're going to be doing here is walking through how to actually get to, base zero. And base zero basically represents being at a place where you can start to build and you can start to grow your life. And so I want you to look at it like this. This is where you are right now. And this represents you without your stuff together. You do not have your shit together at this point in your life here. The problem is if you haven't got your shit together and you've got all these bad habits and lots of terrible things happening and you're unhappy, well, what's going to happen is you don't really know yourself. This is the problem that I see time and time again, where this person here, down here in this depth of hell, so to speak. I'm just going to get a different pen here. Where's my black pen? Let's grab it. The person in the depth of hell, they don't know themselves. And so what a lot of gurus are doing online right now is they're telling you in your current state, in your hell-like state, with all your bad habits, to start figuring out what you want to do with your life. And have you ever been asked this question before of what do you want to do with your life, or what's your goal? And you have absolutely no idea. Well, the reason you have absolutely no idea is because you don't really know yourself. And the reason you don't know yourself and your true self is because you buried yourself away with all these bad habits. If you smoke weed, or if you drink alcohol, or you watch pornography, or if you're on social media all the time, your brain is fundamentally your brain is just completely It's overstimulated, its reward mechanism and its goals driving mechanism is completely out of whack. And it's no wonder you can't figure out what you want to do, let alone read a page of a book. Because how could you possibly? If you're massively overstimulating your brain, you're messing around with all your chemicals, and your brain and body, like doing all these behaviors, cannot achieve like a natural state, then you don't know what you want, because how could you possibly? Like, how could you possibly figure out what you want? Or how could you possibly figure out what to do when your brain isn't working properly because you've overstimulated it, or because you've just completely destroyed it with all these bad habits? Like, it baffles me that people think, like, you know, they ask an 18-year-old what they want to do with their life, and that 18-year-old is just out drinking and playing video games all the time without a job, and they're just like some idiot. It's like, well, that person can't possibly know what they want because they don't have their shit together. So let me get a different pen here. What we're going to do is we're going to go through in order of what I believe to be some of the big ones and the important ones that will help you get your shit together. Because what we need to do is, in order for you to get to this base, you know, so you can actually start, you know, going net positive. Because think of it like this, like right now, if you're not in a natural healthy state, i.e. you've got bad habits and you've got weird anxieties and depressions which are not natural, then you're in debt essentially. And you know, if this up here represents being a millionaire and this down here represents being like in debt, then before you can start to make money and save money, you need to pay off this debt. And that's like finance 101. You know, the most common advice given in personal finance is, before you try to start saving money and making money, pay off any of your debts first. And so that's what we need to do with your behaviors and your habits and with your brain, is we need to pay off this damn debt and get out of it. And then once you've paid off the debt, you can actually start to think about building things. So don't you dare try and start a business if you haven't got your shit together. It just won't work, because a business is a reflection of you. Business, understand this, people say that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Businesses don't fail, people do. Seldom is the business model the problem. It's the person starting the business. 9 out of 10 business people fail, but not 9 out of 10 businesses, because the business is an arbitrary thing. It's just like it just exists. How could it possibly fail? The person failed. So let's actually start talking about some practical advice you can use to get out of this personal debt and fix your brain, so you can actually start to become somewhat successful and get your shit together. So the point I've just made is that, truthfully, if you've got lots of bad habits and you're doing things you know you shouldn't do that are bad for you, then you're probably operating at maybe 10 to 20% of your potential. And if you try to build a company or build a successful life or a successful career with your current brain and your current habits, you're only ever going to achieve 10 to 20% of the success you usually would, because fundamentally your neural circuitry is going to hold you back. So let's get started here. So what actually do we need to do? Because I'm going to give you a bit of a challenge, because this is how I did it. And I'm going to walk you through exactly how I got my shit together. And when I did this, I went from dead broke with no friends and no girlfriend and no like life basically. I sat and played League of Legends all day and just did rubbish, ate rubbish food and did stupid things for like 3 years of my life when I was a teenager. And when I was 18, I had enough of it. So I started doing this get my shit together protocol, and it worked. And now I make like $1 million a month and have a cool life. So this is how it works. So the first thing that you want to look to eliminate from your life is sugar. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you these habits, and I'm going to give you these variables that you need to eliminate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain why, from a business perspective, you want to eliminate them. So we're going to talk about removing them. Telling you to remove something is the easy part, but he who has a why can bear almost any how. So I want to justify to you why you need to remove these individual things, and that should help you understand the imperativeness of my argument, so you actually do take it on board. Otherwise, you're just going to click off this YouTube video and just carry on with your shit life, which I don't want. So sugar is the first thing to remove. Sugar is basically, right now, sugar is like the devil. It is absolutely awful for you. Because what sugar does is, it stimulates your brain, like heavily, but it just completely ruins your body and your brain. And I can tell you right now that if you are having weird anxieties and weird depressions, and if you're having weird mood swings and you have huge energy spikes and then in the afternoon you have like a massive energy crash, or if you're just randomly sat there checking your emails and you have a wave of anxiety come over you, it's likely to be because of sugar. Now, I'm not a clinical psychologist. I'm not going to tell you you're depressed because you're eating sugar, but it usually is the case. At least it was for me. Sugar is like what it does is it basically puts your brain in roller coaster mode. And so it sends you from like a super high to a super low, back to a high and then back up. And it basically makes your emotional wavelength and state look like this. And it also does this with your sleep, and it does this with your mood, and it does this with your energy. And it's not a very good fuel to burn, And I've gone as far now to the point where not only have I cut out sugar from my life completely, but I've also completely removed carbohydrates. Now, I'm not here telling you to remove carbs because, you can do whatever the hell you want. But the first thing you need to eliminate is sugar completely. I don't eat any carbohydrates at all. I haven't for like 2 months now. And my brain is so unbelievably steady and clean, and my clarity of thought is absolutely unprecedented in my life at the moment. And it's because I got rid of this. And so if you have a brain that looks like this, well, your business is going to look like this, and your career is going to look like this, and your relationships are going to look like this, because really in life, all we have is a body and a brain, and how we treat that body and that brain and how that body and brain is manifesting into the world is near enough how all of our behaviors will manifest into the world. And so, if you have a business and like you're suddenly on like a sugar crash and you're all anxious and your brain's going all haywire and weird because you're consuming a synthetic material that's not made for human digestion, you're not supposed to digest it, well, you're going to start to hit low points. And the enemy to business success and the enemy to career growth is emotion. And so if 1 minute you're up here talking to clients feeling amazing, and the next minute a client calls you and you're in the gutter, or if you're making content 1 minute and you feel amazing, and then halfway through the content you feel terrible, it's just unpredictable. You're never going to have predictability in your life, in your business, because sugar is basically like you're digesting it, you're spiking your insulin, you have this massive burst of energy, and then it just cuts off, and then you just start, and then you have this contrast, and you crave it again, so you eat more next time. Like anything that contains sugar should be eliminated from your diet. If this is the very first thing that you have to eliminate if you want to actually get your shit together, because until you've eliminated this, until you've got rid of sugar, and I would almost argue like any sort of stimulant, like I also have eliminated caffeine as well because it does the same thing. But sugar's the main one. This is the catalyst. This is the big boy. If you get rid of this, removing everything else in your life gets significantly easier, because what sugar's going to do is it's going to put you at a low point in your moods, and it's going to put you, in these states of lack of energy. And when you haven't got the energy, and when you're in a bad mood, and when you're feeling all anxious and depressed and emotional, then that emotion and that state is the catalyst or the precedent that you will set for engaging in bad behaviors. And so what will happen at these points, this is when, if you try to exercise willpower, but you're on a sugar crash and you've got no energy and you're in a bad mood, this is when you're going to start to do stupid stuff like watch porn or play video games or, do all this other crap that you shouldn't do. And so this is the catalyst, this is the first thing. We are what we eat. And if we eat a chaotic substance that is unnatural and isn't supposed to work, then we will naturally be chaotic, unnatural, and we won't be supposed to work. So that's the first thing to remove. What you need to do is if you're going to fix your life, you can't do it in a 30-day sweep. The monk mode protocol is a load of rubbish. Monk mode is a fantastic tool for people who have already paid off their personal crap debt and they're actually wanting to be successful and they need to lock in for a month or two. Monk mode's fine for people that have a good base. But if you're the kind of person that's going up and down like this and you're doing all these stupid behaviors and you apply monk mode, all you're going to do is accentuate the length over which these behaviors are going to manifest once you come out of monk mode. And so what we want to do is you want to use the 30-day principle. I'm just going to write this up here. I'm going to put this over here. So the 30-day principle is basically you eliminate this for 30 days. And so what I'm going to suggest you do here is not try and fix everything at once immediately. We're going to try and fix your life over a 6 to 9 month period, or a 3 to 9 month period, where we're going to take your individual bad habits and the behaviors that are holding you back, and we're going to eliminate them one by one in 30-day increments. Now, what I can tell you right now is we're going to agree to quit whatever it is for 30 days. But I know that if you actually quit it after 30 days, you won't want to reintroduce it, because you'll feel way better. And if you tell everyone that you quit it, then you're done. So we're not just saying we're quitting sugar forever, because that's too difficult to justify to your sugar craving brain. Whilst we intend to quit it forever, we start with 30 days because, as Jordan Peterson said to Joe Rogan when they were talking about the carnivore diet, I could hang on to the windowsills by my fingernails for 30 days if I had to. It's possible. When you say, I'm going to quit this for 30 days, in your brain, it's just like oh, okay, it's only 30 days. I can do that. Like, it's more fathomable. But when you say, I'm going to quit it forever, well, you're not, because your brain it's too difficult for you to comprehend with your crappy behavior, okay? Once you've paid off your debts and you've got a good base, then you can start to tell yourself, I'm not going to do this ever again, and you just won't. It becomes a decision. But the first thing that I want you to look to do is eliminate all sugar from your diet. And not only this, but really, you want to eliminate all processed foods, okay? And if you're wondering, like, well, what the hell does that leave me? Well, really, it's just meat, complex carbs, and vegetables. And I'm saying get rid of fruit, get rid of honey. Those are just copes. Oh, I'm going to do the keto, I'm going to do carnivore, but I'm still going to eat honey and fruit. Idiot, cretin, stupid boy. Like, that's just cope. It's sugar in a different form. So, you know, what have you got left here? You want to eat a relatively straightforward Paleolithic diet where you're eating complex carbs, like you can do rice, potatoes, sweet potatoes, whatever. Like, that's still sugary and those are still carbs, but they're going to burn slowly and you're not going to have these huge spikes. We're also going to remove all of the synthetic stuff, like, you know, any crap that you're eating, like, you know, crisps and popcorn and all. I don't even know what crap people eat. This also accounts for all of your drinking as well. So no diet drinks, no like Diet Coke or Diet Sprite. Just literally just drink water and eat like boring foods that don't stimulate your dopaminergic system. And that's literally it. And if you do this for 30 days, you're no longer gonna have this wild spike, and it's gonna be way easier for you to self-regulate the other bad behaviors that you're going to eliminate 30 days later. And so this is the first thing I removed. It changed my life, and that's step numero uno. So once you've eliminated sugar, this will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Because if you remember, we're trying to optimize for 3 variables here. We're trying to optimize for health, wealth, and love. And if we get these 3 things and we put them all together, then we should, in theory, be happy. And that's what we're looking for. And so I can tell you now that building wealth and feeling worthy of love and being able to form genuine, real connections, it usually comes from your health. Because if you try and build a company when you're really, really unhealthy, and if you try and start becoming successful and making money and stuff when you can't get out of bed in the morning because you're on such a sugar crash, or you're sleeping 3 hours a night and your emotions are haywire, it's incredibly difficult to build wealth with terrible health. It's possible, and a lot of people have done it before, but you put yourself at a massive disadvantage into your competition when you don't eat and sleep properly. And so the first things we're focusing on here are your health, and really the easiest way to become healthier real quick is not to go to the gym or, you know, start like running and stuff like that, but literally just to stop eating sugar. If you can nail that, then you'll be absolutely fine. So the next thing that we're going to eliminate or look to eliminate, and you might not have this in your life, you probably have the sugar one, but you may or may not have this one. The next thing we're looking to eliminate is alcohol. Okay? Now, alcohol, I don't know if I spelled it right, but you get the point, right? But once again, we're doing this on a 30-day window. So your first decision should be to eliminate sugar for 30 days. We're not trying to eliminate any more than one behavior at once, because it's simply going to be too difficult for you. I can tell you right now that you will not be able to do it. If you've never actually done an audit on your life and properly quit behaviors before, it's a really hard thing to do. And you're going to have to learn to manage your cravings and manage your impulses so you don't give in to your emotional situations. But the next thing to eliminate is alcohol. So alcohol, I mean, a lot of alcohol will actually be covered in the sugar thing. Just gonna drink some water here real quick. A lot of alcohol will actually be covered in the sugar thing because, you know, you're not gonna be able to drink beer and you're not gonna be able to drink like any like mixers or anything. So really the only alcohol you're gonna be able to drink is like, you know, vodka or whatever, which you won't want to do straight. But alcohol is the second thing that you need to eliminate from your life. Now, I've never really struggled with alcohol before, so I can't really tell you too much about what it does to you because I've never been a drunk. I've drank before and I've had like heavy nights out and stuff before. But the reason alcohol is so bad for you is because it just completely ruins your body. You're literally ingesting a toxin, it's ethanol, and your body has to then deal with that, and that's why hangovers feel so bad. But what alcohol does is it just completely screws you up for like 1 or 2 days, and usually like if you have a heavy night out, and you like, you're gonna be out of whack for like maybe like 4 days until you actually get back to like normal. First day is horrible, second day you feel tired, the third day you're having these crazy emotional spikes because of all your hormones all over the place. And so what we want to learn to do is eliminate something like alcohol so that our chemicals and our brain is just able to actually function without having these crazy weird spikes. Ingesting a poison is probably not going to be a good thing if you want to be happy. You can have a drink every now and then, and I still do that as well. But just don't go out and go absolutely crazy once a week because, well, you're sedating yourself. You're disabling yourself. And, you know, let's say that you drink once a week really heavily. You have 7 days in the week. If you drink once a week really heavily, for the first day after you drink, you're going to operate at maybe 3% of your potential if you have a heavy night. And then the second day after you drink, you might be operating at 22% of your potential. The third day after you've had a drink, maybe you're operating at 50% of your potential. And then by the fourth day, maybe you're like 80%. But that's like half the week where you're not operating at 100% purely because you were just being an idiot. And most people drink because they don't like their lives. That's a generalized sweeping statement, but a lot of people drink to escape their life and the feeling of being alive because they have all these bad habits. So once again, once you've got rid of sugar, alcohol, this is the next big one to remove. Because like, I'd rather have a few drinks every now and then than eat sugar, to be honest. They're both as bad as each other, but once again, it's the health thing. It's what you're ingesting into your body. This has to be removed. I can tell you right now, there's absolutely no, like, journaling, gym, meditating, becoming, like, if you want to become a millionaire and be really successful, like, there's lots of habits and things you can do to do that. But if twice a week you're going out and drinking your body weight in alcohol and you're hungover for like the whole week, it doesn't matter if you journal or meditate or, you know, cold call. You're not going to do anything. You're being silly. So the next one that we're going to remove is slightly different to something you're ingesting, and this is a really big one. Video games. So by this point, you know, you should be on day 60. So day 0 to 30 is sugar, you can see that, and then day 60 is obviously alcohol we've eliminated. So you might not need to eliminate alcohol because you might not drink much, like I didn't when I was younger. So therefore you could just jump straight to video games. But my God, is this a big one? So if you are a man, which you probably are watching this, because my YouTube analytics tells me that you are, inside of your brain, if you are conscientious and you want to be successful, you have something called a goal striving mechanism. So what this means is that somewhere buried into your brain is a part of your brain dedicated to achieving goals and dedicated towards feeling, what is achieving a goal? It's feeling a sense of progress along a trajectory towards an outcome that you've set for yourself. And as a man, and I can't speak for women here because I'm not a woman, but as a man, how I get my meaning and I derive my meaning in life and a lot of my happiness and fulfillment comes from setting a goal and then seeing myself progress towards that goal. Seldom is it the achievement of the goal that makes me feel good, but actually the progressing and the journey towards it. And so I'm gonna make a bet here that most men, especially the ones watching this video, you probably have a goal striving mechanism in your brain because you probably want things. Now, I know lots of girls that have goals as well, and I'm not saying this is just men, But from my experience with girls and women, sometimes they don't have a goal. They're just way easier, they're way easier going, they just want to chill out, and some guys are like that as well. But if we take the average, it's probably safe to say that most dudes have goals. I don't know about girls because I'm not a girl. God knows if I can figure out how they work, right? But what this means is that you want something. You want things in your life. And the problem is when you're playing video games, what video games do is they channel and they basically they use this goal striving mechanism. And so this goal striving mechanism is basically a finite resource. And it means that you have to use it, because as a man, if you're not striving, at least in my experience, based on what I've seen, most guys, if they're not striving towards a goal, they become quite unhappy. And I know myself personally, I become very neurotic and depressed and anxious when I'm not making progress towards a goal, because I have to be doing this. And so what video games do is they basically sedate your goal striving mechanism. They strip you of this thing. Because what is a video game? Well, it's really a goal. If you're playing a game, then usually there's levels and there's outcomes, and you're playing every day to work towards that outcome. Like, for example, if you're playing Call of Duty, then you're leveling up. Or, if you're playing Call of Duty, you're trying to get your KD up or your skill up. There's some sort of measurable metric with every single video game, whether it's a ranking system or a certain weapon or a certain level or something, where you work your way towards something. Okay? And that's goal striving. And so what video games do is they use this goal striving mechanism that is latent and built into us men or women. And what they do is your goal striving mechanism will now latch onto the video game, and your life now becomes about a video game. And so if you are playing video games whilst also trying to start a business, then you're significantly hindering your ability to succeed in the business. Because if you remove the video games, right, so let's just say that, let's just look at this. So here we have this goal striving mechanism in our brain, right? Goal mechanism. The mechanism, the part of our brain dedicated to setting goals and finding meaning and fulfillment towards the accomplishment of them. And then let's say over here we have a business, which is your goal might be 10K per month. Okay? But then over here we have a video game where your goal might be, level 99 or whatever. Well, now what's happening is this goal striving mechanism is now split between the video game and the business. And you might think, oh, that's not how it works, because 10K a month matters way more to my life than level 99. But your brain isn't smart. And I'm not insulting you with that. What my point is that your brain as a force of nature, as an unconscious manifestation of biology, cannot tell the difference between level 99 and 10K a month. To you, 10K a month matters more consciously, but your brain doesn't work consciously. It's a biological force. And it would be like trying to ask a deer to tell the difference between 10K a month and 99 levels. Like the deer or the horse isn't going to be able to tell the difference. And so what you do, and especially if you're playing multiple video games, but what you're doing is your brain is now dedicated towards this video game just as much as it is the business. And the thing is there's way more dopamine and there's way more gratification in these games. And so what that means is that your goal will actually become way more about the video game than it will about the business, because you're being rewarded more often. Because in business, business is a game in that sense that there's levels and experience and achievement, but it takes a lot longer to become successful and to start leveling up in business. It can take a year to get your first client. But if you play a video game and you play a video game for a year, then you're going to make tons of progress and receive tons of reward. So you need this goal striving mechanism. It exists in your brain. And here's why removing video games is so bloody powerful. Because if you remove this and you get rid of the video games, well, this goal striving mechanism has to latch on to something, because otherwise you go insane. And so what will happen is the goal striving mechanism will now start to attach to the business. And so, when you're going for a walk or when you're driving, instead of thinking about what tactic you're going to use to beat a dragon or, what gun you're going to acquire next on a game, you'll naturally start thinking about your company. And so if you want your life to be more about your business than about your video game experience, just remove the video games. It will suck for 14 days, but after 14 days, what will start to happen is you'll start to naturally think about the business. And the game that you play in life will be business. And when that's all you think about, and when your entire goal-striving mechanism is centered towards this, you'll become more successful. Now you can make the argument, Charlie, well, what about like the gym? Because I have a goal in the gym of getting to like 90 kilograms and being 10% body fat. Yes, of course, you know, your goal-striving mechanism is going to be in some shape or form taken up by that goal, but nowhere near as much as a video game would be, because the video game is like it's engineered to use this thing as much as possible. And so what you really want to do in life is have as few goals as humanly possible. And so in my life, for example, I can list out my goals because you don't want to spread yourself too thin. So, you know, really the framework is simple. You know, we talk about this, where we've got health, we've got wealth, and we've got love, and then these things all create happiness, okay? And there's more to life than these three things. You can say like hobbies and stuff like that. But my goals are very straightforward and very simple. My first goal is to be a billionaire. Because I'm playing a game, and as far as I'm concerned, I used to be addicted to video games, and as far as I'm concerned, $1 billion in your bank account in cash is the completion of the game. At this point, you're done, right? That's it. My second goal is to read the biography of every great person throughout history. This is just another goal that I'm working towards, and it might take me, I might die before that happens. I don't know how many biographies I'm going to have to read, but every day I spend some time on that goal because, funnily enough, doing that also contributes to this. And then my third goal is obviously to do with my health, and I won't get into that because it's personal. And then I've also got some other goals around relationships, and I know what I want family-wise and stuff like that. But I haven't got the goal of getting to Challenger on League of Legends, or getting a 3 kill death ratio on Call of Duty, or completing the quest cape on RuneScape, because quite frankly, that's just a little bit pathetic, okay? So that's the third thing you have to remove, and you want to do it for 30 days, and I promise after 30 days you won't want to do it anymore, because you'll be making progress in your business, and you'll become significantly and, you know, way more successful. So the next thing that you need to look at removing is a little bit more touchy, and this is pornography. I don't know if you can see this. Let's see, my pens are running out of ink here. Okay, yeah, here we go. The fourth thing that you need to remove is porn, because I am of the opinion, I'm just going to move this because you can't see it because it's over there. I've written porn 3 times on this whiteboard. The fourth thing to remove is pornography, because I'm sorry, but you can't really, like, I don't know how you can expect to be able to feel or accept true, genuine love in your life when you're watching pornography all the time. And if you're wondering why, well, it's exactly the same mechanism that your brain uses. It's like you know how the goal-striving mechanism thing works, where you can't really pull it in 2 directions? Well, the same thing is true in your brain. So naturally inside of your brain, and I'm pretty sure every single human being has this, is a relationship driving mechanism, okay? And, you know, this is, you can argue that this comes from either a spiritual place, but really it's probably more from a biological place. Now, I know I don't want to reduce the entire, you know, experience of love down to biology, because there might be more to it than this, there probably is. But inside of your brain, you have a relationship driving mechanism, an intimacy driving mechanism, where you naturally want and desire a partner to reproduce with, because that's literally the meaning of life, is reproduction. If you don't believe me, you can go and read The Selfish Gene by Richard Dawkins. But in order for you to be happy, and in order for you to feel fulfilled and like you've got a good life, typically having a partner is a pretty good way to do that. Because if you haven't got a partner, your limbic system goes kind of insane. Your limbic system is like your nervous system, right? And, you know, the human body's entire purpose on this planet is to reproduce. Like near enough every single, like, morsel of your fiber of your being is wanting to reproduce. That's kind of like why our bodies exist. If you first principle it out, like what is the meaning of life? It's reproduction. And if you don't believe me, you can just look anywhere else in nature. Like, why does any animal exist? It's not because they look cool or because they want to be there. It's because they want to reproduce. It's like it's the selfish gene theory, right? You might disagree, but this is how I see it, and this is my experience, and this is my YouTube channel. So you can I don't care, right? So I can tell you now that if you're not engaged in some sort of intimate relationship, it's like there's a part of your brain. This part of your brain is always going to be seeking it. And so when I was younger, before I had a partner or someone to love or someone to love me, I would if I went out in public, I would be on it would almost be like my entire brain was just engineered towards looking for a partner. Have you had this before where you go to the mall or you go out somewhere, and if you're not in a relationship or you're not talking to someone, if you're not dating someone, it's like your brain's just looking at all these options, okay, that girl over there just walked past, she was trying to back over there, maybe I should talk to her, maybe this person. And then you're on Instagram and then you see one of those OnlyFans ads and you're like, oh, I'm gonna click on that because you start doing crazy, stupid shit when you don't have a partner. Because this thing in your brain, this relationship driving mechanism is extremely visceral and it sits at the very core of your brainstem, which is where most of our tribal primitive behaviors come from. And if not having a steady or stable relationship, or at least an understanding that you have the status to achieve a relationship. Because some people don't want a relationship because it's not what they want right now, but they know that at least they could have one. And so if you're a dude and you're broke, unsuccessful, out of shape, and you just feel like no woman's going to want you, then this thing goes insane. But if you're successful, in shape, you've got your shit together, and you know that you could attract a mate if you wanted to, then it's within your control and you don't go insane. So I'm not saying you need to be in a relationship. I'm not prescribing a relationship. But if you're not in a good way and your life is just, oh, it's gonna kill a mosquito there. God, I got it. This mosquito's been flying around the camera, so I had to just quickly murder it before it got me. But my point is this, if you don't have your shit together enough to get a partner, or if you don't have a partner, then your brain is going to dedicate an awful lot of resources towards trying to find one. And you're going to start to do stupid shit like spending money on expensive cars and then putting them on Instagram. And I used to do this as well. I used to flex on Instagram. Dude, I can tell you this, and we're going to talk about social media in a second. But if you really break down a lot of your behaviors and why you do them, and you really get to the bottom of why you perform and act in a certain way, if you haven't got a partner or you haven't got the status to get a partner if you wanted, you're going to find that most of your behavior is this relationship driver mechanism just pushing things out. Why are you on Instagram talking about rubbish? Why are you on watching porn and stuff like that? Porn is the ultimate manifestation of this. And so what happens if you're lazy and if you're stupid and if you're weak, then what starts to happen is you start to watch pornography. Because when you watch porn, you temporarily sedate this relationship driving mechanism. And so when you masturbate to this crap and this toxic, awful, disgusting manifestation of the 21st century, you start to subdue and what would you call it? Temporarily satisfy the relationship driving mechanism. The problem is that every time you do this and you watch porn and you satisfy this, you have to come back to the porn, a day or two later, because this is no longer satisfied. So when you watch porn and you masturbate to it, well, for a day or two, this has got a short half-life, for maybe 24 to 72 hours, this thing is now calm. But the problem is that after a couple of days, it's going to crave, this relationship driving mechanism will once again crave this stimulation and this meaning and temporarily shameful fulfillment, and you're going to go back and you're going to do it again. And so until you get this thing straight, you're going to constantly go through this loop. And so how do we get this thing straight? How do we satisfy this relationship driving mechanism? Because this is a huge component of getting your shit together. Well, what you do is you eliminate porn. If you remove the short-term, if you pursue the short-term expedient thing that is pornography, and you remove this loop, then what's going to start to happen is your relationship driving mechanism is going to start to look elsewhere into more natural places for fulfillment. Because if it knows it can't go to porn, it's the same thing as a goals driving mechanism. It has to manifest. It's what makes you human. And if it doesn't manifest, you go insane. So it has to manifest in some way, shape, or form. And so what this will do is it will force you to start actually doing shit. And so before you know it, you're going to want to go to the gym because there's going to be girls in the gym that you can talk to. Or you're going to want to go and start randomly working on your business in a coffee shop somewhere because there might be girls for you to talk to. Or, when you might want to start going on runs because you might see people. Like, if you remove this thing, if you get rid of porn, and I promise you, and I know this is true because I've done it, if you get rid of porn, intimacy, connection, and meaningful relationships actually become possible. You can completely, it sucks for 30 days because you're going to constantly think about it and it's going to freak you out and this, that, and the other. But you'll start to masturbate less, which means that your life force, or your, quite literally, pun not intended, your actual life force, it's like you retain more energy. And I'm not talking about nofap and not masturbating and stuff like that, because sometimes it's healthy to do that. If you're wondering what I do, I'm not going to tell you because it's weird, but I don't watch porn, and it's very seldom that I masturbate because I don't need to, right? I don't feel like I'm not controlled by my impulses or emotions. And if you have a partner and you're constantly masturbating and you're watching porn all the time, your relationship is going to be completely destroyed, because this relationship driving mechanism will feed all of its time and energy into pornography and not your partner. And so if you want to destroy your relationship, just watch porn. But if you don't want to, then don't. But if you want to get into a relationship, stop watching porn, because you won't give yourself a choice. Okay? And so you'll start to look for more natural ways to find connection and find intimacy. And you'll start to you'll stop objectifying women, you'll stop overly sexualizing women. And I'm not this, red pill, have sex with as many girls as you want. I've been through the whole dating app thing and the expedient, constant one-night stands. That's something that I've done, and I'm not shameful of it because it was a different version of myself, but it's not something to be proud of. A high body count isn't something to be, oh yeah, this is amazing. It's not. What you should be proud of is a long-term, satisfying, deep, meaningful connection with one person, because that's the natural way to do it. If you want to be happy and you want to have a meaningful, fulfilled life, then you want to do what the Stoics called lining yourselves up with nature, where all of your behaviors and all of the ways in which you orient and manifest yourself in the world are in alignment with the way that nature intended. And so when we look at nature, what do we see? Well, most, you could make the red pill Andrew Tate argument of some animals have multiple partners and stuff, but typically speaking, when you look at how civilization is developed, most people naturally just want one person. It's a natural urge. Now, I'm not going to get into the red pill argument of having multiple wives or sleeping around. I've done both of these things. I've done the sleeping around thing, and I've done the single partner thing. And I can tell you almost every time without fail that the partner thing makes me way happier and way more fulfilled. That's my experience. I'm not here to tell you what you should and shouldn't do with your personal relationships. I'm just telling you what worked for me, and this was a massive component of getting my shit together. Because remember, it's health, wealth, love, and happiness. It's difficult to build wealth without good health, and if you're trying to build wealth whilst you've got this constant striving for sex and intimacy, it takes up so much of your brain, and your limbic system goes so haywire that it's very difficult for you to focus on work, because all you're thinking about is where your next orgasm is going to come from. So that's just a crude way of putting it, but sometimes this stuff is uncomfortable to talk about on a wide audience, but a lot of people need to hear this. You need to have this thing in check, man. And if you remove the pornography, you'll start to find that when you're talking to women, and this is what's happened to me, when you're talking to girls and women, it's less about, I just want to have sex with this person. It's less about their body and having sex with them and reproducing, and it's more about actually getting to know them and understanding what they value and connecting with them. There's way more to a woman than her vagina. And for some reason, a lot of people think that's a controversial thing to say. But I don't think it is, because when you have remove the bad crap, and when I did the same thing, I removed porn, then I removed dating apps. I gave myself no choice but to go and do it the right way, the natural way. And you'll start to see women in a different way. You'll start to see them in a way more positive, healthy, natural, meaningful way, and that's a huge component of getting your shit together, okay? So removal of porn. Once again, this is a 30-day affair. I'm not telling you to give it up forever. I'm just telling you, for the first 30 days, just stop it. And you'll find that, you know, by week 3 and 4, you're gonna start to be doing more natural behaviors. You're gonna start to be going out and going out with friends to try and find mutual friends. And if you give yourself no choice, you'll find a partner. And at this point already, you've given up sugar, so you're not all haywire and you're starting to lose weight and you're starting to feel better in your body and you're not eating processed foods. You're not drinking alcohol, so you're not like useless and in bed all the time feeling sorry for yourself. You've also stopped playing video games, so you're actually starting to do more useful things and you're actually starting to work on your business. And now you've removed porn. If you eat healthily, if you don't drink, and if you actually start working on something meaningful, that's going to give you way more confidence to go and find a girlfriend and you'll start to become successful. A lot of the self-improvement game is fueled by women, and it's fueled by trying to get a girlfriend. And I've seen some of the stuff that I've seen guys do to try and get girls is ridiculous. All you have to do, and I can tell you this because I've done it, all you have to do is take good care of your health, focus on your money and, you know, becoming successful. I'm not saying that girls want money, but it's going to make you significantly more likely to find an attractive and beautiful girl if she knows that you can take care of her and provide for her and, you know, take care of potential future children. If you nail that and you're healthy and you're a half decent person and you're not being all weird and psychotic with all these bad behaviors, then you're going to find a girl. It's not hard to beat the average man. It really isn't. Trust me, it doesn't require as much suffering as you quite frankly might think. Okay? So that's the 4th thing to remove. I'm just going to write this here. Now, the final thing that we're going to talk about here is short form / social media. So, a lot of people spend time on social media and watching short form content. You kind of, dude, if you want to get your shit together, you got to stop doing that. Because one of the, you know what I said a minute ago about how it's not hard to compete with the average person these days? Like, it's not hard to compete with the average man because most of them are just, well, quite frankly, just stupid. But the easiest way to compete with someone in this day and age is just to beat them on attention span. And every time you watch a piece of short form content is another time that you slightly reduce your attention span. If you ask any billionaire what the number 1 key to their success is, they will tell you it's focus. And the reason I know that to be true is because 2 of the most prominent, richest billionaires in the world, being Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, were once both asked in a separate room, what's the one thing that you think leads to success? And they both said focus. And so if we know from billionaires, i.e. people that, not even billionaires, but people that are worth like $100 billion each, that have built the most successful empires and capitalistic like companies in the world, like they've monopolized markets and added hundreds, if not trillions of dollars to the value of the market. If they say that focus is the most important thing, then it probably is. And focus is about being able to concentrate your energy and time onto one thing for an elongated period of time. It's an elapsement of time. And I can tell you right now that if you're watching short form content, this is destroying your attention span. And focus is basically about putting your attention span onto one thing, and the elapsement of time that can happen before you get distracted is how long you can focus for. And so if you're watching short form content and you're so used to like a new stimulus or a novel stimulus every 15 to 10 seconds or 30 seconds, then that's the only content you're ever going to be able to consume. And so when it comes to consuming other content, like important business videos, or reading books that help you become successful, or important conversations with people that can make you a lot of money, you're going to find it extremely difficult to concentrate and gather and interpret the information that you can later synthesize to become successful. And so this is the real consequence of short form content, is it fries your brain. And not only that, but it's the actual content itself. It's the stuff inside of the short form content that you're seeing that is going to ruin you. So the problem with the short form content, and the reason it's part of this, the reason I think it's like part of like the devil and hell, so to speak, is because, well, what's most of the short form content that you're going to see? Oh, well, hang on a minute. You're going to see food, and you're going to see like, you know, those videos of people making shitty food that contains sugar that you shouldn't eat. So it's going to encourage you to eat the bad food you shouldn't eat. Then you're going to see videos of people having fun and drinking and partying and clubbing and stuff like that. Then you're going to see videos of video games that you play, and the algorithm's going to start to show you and encourage you to play video games again. You're also going to see softcore pornography as well. You're going to start to see OnlyFans models and girls in bikinis and basically thirst traps. And so the reason you want to eliminate short form content as the last thing here, I mean, there's lots of other things you can eliminate, but it's because it's going to act as an encouragement for all of the behaviors that you don't want to relapse into. Because if you're exposing yourself to porn, softcore porn, bad, like people eating crap food and mukbangs and stuff, people having like a crazy time drinking and having like a full send night out, and you know, if you're seeing short form content of video games you love, then you're still stimulating the parts of your brain associated with the behaviors that you've worked so hard to remove. And so it's imperative to not only your attention span, but the relapsement into the bad behaviors that I listed earlier, that you remove this. Now, if you want to do this completely, you just remove social media completely. And so I've done this myself. I'm not theory crafting, telling you it's a good thing to do. I've actually done it. So I obviously have YouTube, and then for business, for my work, I have an Instagram, and I have the TikTok and the Twitter. I don't actually use those things. They're managed by my team. I think I've logged into them maybe 2 or 3 times. So I don't, like, you know, on my phone here, well, actually, you can't see it, unfortunately, because I'm recording on my other phone. This is my notes phone. I don't have, personally, for my personal life, I do not have Facebook. I do not have Twitter. I do not have Snapchat. I do not have Reddit. I do not have Discord. I do not have Instagram. I do not have LinkedIn. I do not have, like, I think I've said Facebook. I do not have TikTok. I don't have YouTube Shorts. I don't have anything. The only thing that people can communicate with me on, that I can consume content from other people on, is WhatsApp. And for work, I don't have Slack. So I've intentionally eliminated those things because they don't serve me. They don't do me any good. Social media is like, brother, if you want to grow into a man, what the hell are you doing on Instagram or TikTok? Like, if you're a grown man, if you're over the age of like 18 and you're like an adult now, or if you're like 17 or 16, you want to be a man, brother, what on earth are you doing on TikTok or Instagram? Posting little pictures of yourself, like little poses. Like, what? You're a man. You're not supposed to sit there and be like, and that's fine if a girl wants to do that and she wants to share pictures with her friends and stuff, but if you want to be a real man and you want to get your shit together, you don't tell people about it. You don't go in the gym and post like like little cute, like, you know, leg day off. What are you doing? Same thing, bro, if you're scrolling through TikTok, what's wrong with you? Like, are you ill? Is there something wrong with your brain? Are you not functioning properly? Do you have any idea how bad that is for your brain? Just constantly stimulating yourself and constantly entertaining yourself and constantly making yourself feel temporarily good at the sacrifice of one of the most important skills you can develop to become successful. And not only that, but you're seeing stuff that you shouldn't see. Dude, I don't get it, man. Like, people literally sabotage themselves. Same thing if you're on Twitter. What are you doing? Just polarizing yourself and reading, you know, stuff about like politics and gender and all this crap, and being offended and upset and getting emotional by words from strangers. You've got work to do, man. You've got a life to fix. You've got more important stuff to do than scrolling through thirst traps, watching video games, and then, you know, just seeing random videos. Like, name one TikTok you watched recently. Like, you can't remember any of them. It's just numbing. You're sedating yourself. So stop it. So, in summary, if you remove these things, if we remove sugar, and I'm going to give you one last secret here. If we remove alcohol, if we remove video games, if we remove porn, And if we remove social media, I'm just going to put short form here as well. What we've done, if we do this in 30 days, another 30 days, another 30 days, now the chances are is maybe you've got, in addition to these ones, you might have other bad habits as well. Maybe you smoke weed, for example, or I don't really know what else do people do these days that's bad for them. You know what I'm talking about. You know what you should be doing. But every 30 days, eliminate one. Don't try and do it all in one go with one massive monk mode blast where you do everything you should and more for 5 days, you feel great, and then you relapse because you've been an idiot. Because like if you remove all these at once, then what's going to happen is your brain has to fight 5 impulses. You can fight one impulse. That's pretty bloody easy. You'll struggle and it will hurt, but you should be able to fight one craving at a time. Like smoking is another example as well. You might want to remove that. And so once you've cleared out, and I'm not saying like you can't try to build a business whilst you've got these things on, but think of these like actual disabilities. These things here are literal disabilities. And so if you're trying to start a business, you want to see that a business is like a 100-meter race. Okay? It's like a 100-meter race. And you're going to start this race here, but you're up against, say, 10 other people. Now, if you have these 5 things, you're starting the race in a wheelchair. You are disabled. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing or that I'm judging people who are in wheelchairs. You've got to be a real idiot to think that I've got anything against someone who has a disability. I mean, that's not the point I'm making. But the visualization, the metaphor that I'm giving you here is if you have these things, fundamentally, people will easily beat you. Because you're going to be all weird and chaotic because you're on sugar. You're going to be hungover all the time and your hormones are going to be out of whack, so you can't do any proper focused work. You're not really going to take the business seriously because your goal-driving mechanism is being satisfied elsewhere. You're not going to be able to focus on work properly because all you're worried about is your... And then on top of that, your attention span's being completely destroyed and you're stupidly polarizing yourself emotionally to stupid people's content. And so you're disabled. Before you can learn to run the race, you need to learn how to get out of the wheelchair. And that's the point I'm making here by, trying to find a good base. If you are drinking, gaming, constantly wanking, constantly spending time on social media, and constantly eating sugar and smoking weed and doing stupid shit and going out to raves or whatever the hell you're doing, you don't know yourself. Once you've cleared these out, and once you've stepped out of the wheelchair, now you can actually set a goal, and now you can actually start to work on things that are meaningful and fulfilling. You have to learn to pay the debt off. You cannot save money until you've paid off debt, because the APR will eat you alive. Likewise, if you try to start journaling and meditating and going on self-improvement and going to the gym and doing cold approaches and looks maxing or whatever the hell people suggest you do, you're going to fail. Because that's like learning how to stretch your hand. Like meditating for someone who has all these things is like learning how to stretch your hamstrings when you're still sat in a wheelchair. It ain't gonna be much use, all right? So get rid of these things first. Do it every 30 days. Be patient with it. It's gonna take 6 months to eliminate all your bad habits. But you've got probably, hopefully on this planet, 85 years. And so if you can spend half of one of those years paying off all of this debt, so you can eventually start to introduce good habits and become successful, it's probably pretty worthwhile. I know this to be true because this is how I've done it. Now, I'm not saying that you can't try to work on a business and try to become successful whilst you have these things. That's fine. I got the 10K a month when I was eating sugar, I was playing video games. Actually, to be fair, I wasn't. All I really did was the sugar thing and some social media stuff. I cut all the other ones out real quick. That's how I did it. Bye-bye.